Good. So you want to own the White House. Number 10. You buy the land. Before you can build anything, you need somewhere to put it. And that means finding a massive piece of property, large enough for the building, the gardens, the driveway, the parking areas, and everything around it. You cannot just choose a random piece of land, because the location matters. The roads need to connect the property, and the ground needs to be strong enough to support the structure. So you search for the perfect location, and eventually you find the land. But then comes the expensive part. You negotiate the price and agree on the deal. After that, you sign the ownership papers and complete the paperwork. Then you transfer the money, and finally, the land belongs to you. But when you look around, there is still nothing here. No walls, no rooms, no roof, and definitely no White House yet. You have only bought the ground, and that is just the beginning. Because now you have to turn this empty piece of land into one of the most recognizable buildings in the world. Number 9. You build the foundation. Before the first wall can rise, you need something incredibly strong underneath it, because a building this massive cannot simply sit on the surface. First, you measure the entire area and mark exactly where the foundation needs to go. Then you dig deep into the ground, removing layers of soil until you reach stable earth. After that, you prepare the base with gravel and compact the ground so everything underneath is strong enough. Then comes the steel reinforcement. Thousands of heavy steel bars are arranged throughout the foundation, creating a powerful internal structure. Once the steel is ready, the concrete starts going in, filling the foundation and creating a massive, solid base beneath the future building. Then, the foundation walls begin to rise, and waterproofing is added to protect the structure from moisture. Drainage is installed so water can move away from the foundation. And slowly, the empty land starts becoming something much bigger. But there is still no finished building yet. All you have now is the foundation, and everything above it will depend on how strong you made it. Number 8. You buy the stone. Because now the foundation is ready, but the building still needs its walls. And for a massive classical structure, you need an enormous amount of stone. You cannot just use any cheap material. The stone has to be strong, durable, and beautiful. So you start with huge blocks of limestone taken from massive quarries. The raw stone is then cut into precise shapes because every block needs to fit perfectly with the next one. Some pieces become large wall blocks, while others are shaped into columns, decorative details, and architectural ornaments. Then thousands of these pieces have to be transported to the construction site, and that means trucks, roads, fuel, workers, and time. And all of it costs money. The more impressive the building becomes, the more stone you need, and the bill keeps growing. But when the first finished blocks finally arrive, you can start seeing the building take shape. Because this is no longer just an empty construction site. The stone is about to become the walls, columns, and details that will make the structure recognizable. Number 7. You build the walls. And this is where the empty foundation finally starts looking like a real building. The stone blocks are placed carefully, one by one, with every piece aligned to the next, because even a small mistake can create problems. As the walls become taller, the structure has to remain perfectly balanced. Layers of stone are connected with mortar, while hidden reinforcement gives the walls additional strength. Then openings for windows and doors are created, and large classical columns begin rising from the foundation. These columns are not simply decoration. They become important architectural elements that define the entire appearance of the building. The walls continue upward, and the structure becomes wider, taller, and more impressive with every section completed. But there is still one major problem above you. The building is completely exposed to the weather, and without a roof, everything inside would be vulnerable. So the next stage becomes extremely important because you now have to cover the entire structure. Number 6. You build the roof because all those walls need protection, and the roof is one of the most important parts of the entire structure. First, the structural framework has to be created using strong beams that can support the weight above them. The framework is carefully positioned so the roof remains stable and symmetrical. Then, the roofing materials are installed layer by layer, including structural support, waterproofing, and the final outer surface. Every section has to connect properly because even a small weakness could allow water to enter the building. Rainwater systems are also added, so water can flow safely away from the structure. The edges receive detailed architectural finishes, and the roof slowly transforms from an exposed framework into a complete protective surface. From below, you can now see the building beginning to look like the structure you imagined. But the outside is still only part of the story, because behind those walls, there is an enormous empty interior waiting to be transformed. Number 5. You build the interior because an impressive exterior means nothing if the inside is still empty. The first thing you need is the floor. And for a building like this, ordinary flooring will not be enough. Polished stone and marble begin covering the major spaces, while the walls receive detailed architectural finishes. Doors, windows, and decorative elements are installed throughout the rooms. Then comes the staircase, connecting different levels of the building, and every part has to match the classical design. The ceilings receive detailed molding, and large, elegant lighting fixtures are installed above the rooms. Furniture is brought in, including tables, chairs, curtains, carpets, and other expensive pieces. Each room now starts developing its own purpose. Some spaces become offices, some become meeting rooms, and others become grand ceremonial areas. The empty structure that once echoed with nothing is slowly becoming a luxurious interior. But all of these rooms still need something most people never think about, because behind the walls, there has to be a hidden network that makes the entire building actually work. Number 4. You install the electricity and plumbing, because a beautiful building is useless if nothing inside it actually works. First, thousands of cables have to be routed through the walls, ceilings, and floors, so electricity can reach every part of the building. Then, electrical panels and circuit breakers are installed to control the entire system. Lights, switches, outlets, and other equipment all depend on this hidden network. But electricity is only half the problem, because you also need water pipes running throughout the building. Clean water has to reach sinks, bathrooms, kitchens, and other areas, while drainage pipes carry wastewater away from the structure. Ventilation systems are installed to move air through the building, and heating and cooling systems keep the interior comfortable. All of these systems have to fit inside the structure without ruining the finished appearance. And once everything is connected, the building finally has something most people never see but completely depend on every single day. The hidden systems are now working, and that brings you to another problem, because protecting everything you just built becomes extremely important. Number 3. You handle security because owning a building this important means you cannot simply leave the doors unlocked. The property needs a strong perimeter, starting with heavy security fencing and controlled gates. Then surveillance cameras are positioned around important areas so movement can be monitored from different directions. Security lighting helps keep the property visible at night, while motion sensors and alarms provide another layer of protection. Access control systems are installed so only authorized people can enter certain areas, and security guards monitor the property around the clock. Inside a control room, multiple camera feeds can be watched and recorded, while alarms can immediately draw attention to unusual activity. The goal is not just to protect the building itself, but also everything inside it, because the more valuable the property becomes, the more important security becomes. And now you finally have a massive building that is protected from the outside. But there is still one question left. If you are spending this much money owning it, how can you actually make money from it? Number 2. You turn it into a business. Because simply owning an expensive building does not automatically make you rich. The building has to generate income, and there are several ways to do that. Visitors can pay for access, and admission tickets can create a constant source of revenue. Special tours can bring in even more money, while restaurants and cafes inside the property can generate additional income. Souvenir shops can sell merchandise, and private events can turn certain rooms into premium spaces. Online booking systems can make it easier for people to reserve their visits, and digital payments can make the entire process faster. But now you have to remember something.
every dollar coming in is not automatically profit. The building still needs staff, maintenance, electricity, water, security, insurance, taxes, and constant repairs. So you have to manage the business carefully. If the revenue is higher than the operating costs, the difference becomes profit. And suddenly, the building is no longer just an expensive possession. It has become an asset that can generate money. And that brings us to the final number.
Number 1. You make money after spending an enormous amount to buy the land, build the structure, furnish the interior, install every hidden system, and protect the property. The final goal is to make the numbers work. Visitors buy tickets, businesses operate inside the property, events bring in customers, and every transaction creates revenue. But revenue is only the beginning, because you still have to subtract the cost of employees, maintenance, electricity, water, security, insurance, taxes, and everything else required to keep the property operating. What remains after those expenses is your profit. And if the property becomes popular enough, that profit can become significant over time. You could reinvest the money, improve the property, expand the business, and potentially increase the value of the entire asset. The building itself may become more valuable while the business continues generating income. And this is where the idea becomes interesting, because you are no longer simply paying to own a famous building. You are turning ownership into a financial machine. But there is one final thing you need to understand before you decide that owning something like this is a perfect investment.